More so, I think we've passed evening, but okay. Welcome everyone to this open house on direct tax and international taxation. So the objective today is to get into the day-to-day of what various profiles under the big heading direct tax and international tax entail. What do we do in these profiles, and when should you pursue these profiles, and what sort of uh, what sort of experience can you expect in the first 2 to 3 or maybe 4 years after qualification? So while we were expecting to have a few more panelists today, but unfortunately due to the current COVID situation that we are having actually and various personal reasons, we had two panelists drop out. Regardless of that, we still have a very good panel. So I'll just start by introducing everyone very briefly. So we have Meenal with us. So Meenal earlier used to work with corporate and international tax in KPMG. She has done her articleship in direct tax, and now she's working as a senior associate in M&A tax with Dhruva. We have Pranali with us. Pranali is very experienced in transfer pricing. She is working as an assistant manager with PwC. And we have Vaishnavi with us. She is working at EY in international tax and transfer pricing service line. I am also a part of EY and I work in their tax knowledge and solutions team. So the four of us will be recollecting our initial experiences starting from our interviews, how did we prepare for it, and what do we do in brief in our day-to-day. So that's what the four of us will be seeking to achieve today, to just let everyone have a brief overview of what these various profiles entail. So I will just start with a brief structure of how a direct tax and international tax department typically looks in a Big Four. So in terms of how the direct tax profile looks in a Big Four, so the first subdivision of a Big Four direct tax profile is corporate tax. So corporate and international tax generally go together. So that profile generally entails your tax compliances, such as return filing, you have your appeals, you have your litigation, and you have advisory related to corporate claims. So corporates is not just your companies, it is even partnership firms, it is your trust structures, it is a lot more than just a company as such. So all corporate assessees as such, and few select individuals in corporate and international tax per se. So this is the corporate and international tax, which deals only with the corporates part. Apart from that, direct tax and international tax also has a very specific service line which is tailored to taxation of individuals. It is called by different names in different Big Fours. Basically, it will do all compliances only related to individuals, compliance, advisory, litigation only related to individuals. Other than that, we have transfer pricing. Transfer pricing is obviously a very unique segment. Since you guys, majority of you all here have already attempted CA final or are somehow aware of the CA final syllabus, you all know what transfer pricing entails theoretically. So there is an entire dedicated service line to transfer pricing in all the Big Fours, which deals specifically with transfer pricing litigation, transfer pricing compliance, and advisory. Obviously they will deal with other related issues to transfer pricing also. It's not just very strictly those sections and just those articles in a DTAA. Apart from this, we also have transaction tax. So transaction tax is a department which deals with different kind of transactions and their point of taxation, or what are the tax consequences of very unique types of transactions. Apart from transaction tax, which is popularly called M&A tax, we have my department. So my department is kind of like a knowledge cell or a knowledge function of a Big Four. So we will provide support to these main tax teams, which I told earlier. We will solve their technical queries and we will release alerts and guidance notes on various tax developments. So this is a very broad overview of what we have in direct tax and international taxation as a whole in a Big Four structure. There can be various substructures within this. Another point that I would like to say is that all these substructures mostly, especially with respect to taxation of corporates, are divided sector wise in big fours. You will have financial services, you will have media and telecommunication, and you will have manufacturing. So these three sectors broadly are present, and generally whichever team you're allocated to will dominate a particular sector, and in a big four context it will dominate a particular sector and you will get work related to that sector. So this was a very brief overview. Quickly to recap, direct tax and international taxation as a whole, it has corporate and international tax, it has transfer pricing, it has people advisory services, which is individual tax, it has transaction tax, and it has a knowledge function, which is a knowledge cell or a research division as such. So these are the broad, very, very broad overview. There is a lot of subdivision, lot of subsectors from a big four perspective. Coming to a mid-size, you will not find such amount of differentiation or such amount of subdivision detailing, no sector-wise bifurcation. You get to work with everyone from manager to partner, most probably in a mid-size firm, and you get exposure to all different kinds of work. And similarly, in a small size firm, you will not find such kind of bifurcation. So now we will each be individually talking about certain aspects such as our interview, what we do in the day to day, and how it's been like in these first 1 or 2 years for us. So I'll start with Vaishnavi. You can go and just elaborate on your experience.
Thanks, Supermanu. So I cleared my CA final in November 2019, and my interview, of course, the results were in Jan, so my interview was sometime in Jan 2020. And I did my articleship in Udupi. I'm not really sure how many of you have heard of that place. It's a coastal town in Karnataka. So which is like a tier 2 city. So didn't really have any, like a fancy tag which came with the articleship. So my experience was mostly in statutory audit. Of course, I'd worked on Ind AS and all of that. So in terms of stat audit, I did have a good experience there, and also a fair bit of tax. But didn't really have any sort of assessment related experience, and of course no prior transfer pricing experience. So when it came to the interview, all that I could really demonstrate was the theoretical knowledge that I had in transfer pricing, and the reading that I had done around that. I think what they really look for, or at least what my interviewers and what my manager at that time was really looking for is, whether somebody really has the attitude, a can-do approach, will somebody really be a good fit in, the culture that the corporate actually has. So I think those are also the things which they look at, especially when we're talking about very specific and niche service lines like transfer pricing, because, talk about making a career out of hardly say 6 to 7 sections, and that's what transfer pricing is really all about. So given the nicheness, that's one thing you really have to probably check. Of course, if you have a prior experience in that, that's extremely treasured. I've also seen a lot of people who come in with that transfer pricing related articleship experience, and the perspectives that they bring to the table is obviously a lot different. The kind of experience that they would be having is obviously an asset to the organization, but that's not that's not a prerequisite, I would say. There are a lot of other factors which really go into, making that selection of whether you should really be hired or not. And, demonstrating a really good theoretical knowledge, at least, and being able to tackle the questions that you're being thrown at, that is definitely something, which you should really focus on. So that is something about my interview experience. Now coming to what have things been like. So it's going to be almost 2 years this Feb, since I started working in the transfer price service line. See, of course, the journey has been different, right? Like the role that I played in the first 6 months of my career is different than what I played in the second 6 months and all of that. So I'll just explain, like what are the different aspects one really gets to handle in transfer pricing. So basically, transfer pricing is about the intercompany transactions that are in place, which means you would only be having corporate, your multinational enterprises as your clients. Of course, there are certain I mean, previously there were certain domestic transactions which were also subject to transfer pricing, and it's there even now. But it's the quantum is really less compared to the international transactions and the M&E clients that you're having. So that experience was something which was really new for me, because I didn't really have that in articleship. Getting adjusted to that kind of culture, the professionalism that they were expecting, that was really nice. So when they plan on having a certain transaction, there are obviously a lot of different reasons. Primarily, there's going to be a business reason why they want to have a certain intercompany transaction. Now, then they come to us as tax advisors. Obviously, they'll be reaching out to different sets of advisors. They would also be reaching out to tax advisors to understand what is the complication or what is the tax implication of that particular transaction, which they have in their mind. So that is where we come into picture. And depending on what has been the litigation history of that particular transaction that they are proposing to have, or what do OECD guidelines say, or what does the Indian income tax say about it. Depending on all of that, we basically advise them on how they can actually best structure their particular transaction from a transfer pricing perspective. So that would be the advisory part of it. That's something I really, really enjoy, because I feel that is one segment in transfer pricing where you really get to understand the business processes. So transfer pricing is basically, there are two sections which are the heart and soul of transfer pricing. One is the functional analysis, wherein you try and understand, what each and every party to the transaction is doing. More like a brain versus brawn analysis, like which is the head, which is the body, who is performing the executionary function and who is performing the ideation related bit. So you are basically getting into the nitty-gritty of the transaction, understanding where the economically significant functions are being performed, understanding where the economically significant risk-bearing entity is, because at the end of the day, as we all know, the higher risk appetite a certain entity has, it should essentially be deserving higher profits. So depending on all of that analysis, we structure or we suggest the client on how they can best structure their business transaction that they currently have in mind. So that is the advisory part. That obviously involves structuring, and in addition to that, also pricing, because at the end of the day, they should, or they would be interested in knowing how they should price their particular transaction, such that if questioned subsequently by the tax authorities, they can prove that, look, this transaction is comparable, to another transaction which is happening between parties which are not related, which is called as the arm's length principle in transfer pricing. So that's the advisory bit, structuring and pricing. And then obviously you have the cycle, right? So 1 year passes and then comes the compliance bit, wherein you prepare your transfer pricing documentation, and depending on which country you are, you have different transfer pricing disclosure forms as well. In India, which that is, form 3CEB. In addition to that, we also support clients with preparation of master file, um, and CBCR reports, which is your country by country reporting. You might have heard about the base erosion profit shifting action plans, which was released by OECD in 2015. And one of the core action plan, I mean, many of the core action plans there were about, were related to transfer pricing and ensuring that the profits which different like subsidiaries or different units of the M&Es are earning are in alignment with the value that they are actually adding to the group. And a part of this BEPS program was also bringing in the 3-tier documentation, which is your local transfer pricing documentation, wherein we are focusing only on the particular transaction. And then you have the master file, wherein we are giving like a brief overview of what the group is actually into. And then obviously you have a country by country reporting, where again, it's all about giving in certain specific numbers, to tax administrations. Like, for example, you could have a group which has got, say, 400 companies in, say, over 140 countries, right? So I would be required to present to the tax authorities jurisdiction-wise data of how much profit I have in each jurisdiction, how much revenue I earn from each jurisdiction, just so that they get an overall idea of, how I run as a group, and whether I'm really, like structuring my transactions in a way with keeping tax savings or illegal tax avoidance in mind. So that's really about compliance. After compliance, obviously, the litigation is something that comes into picture, wherein, in India, you have obviously transfer pricing officers. Your case is referred by the assessing officer to the TPO. Then the TPO issues notices. You have to respond to it. So we support clients in responding to these notices. And then, of course, once the orders are issued, you go in appeal. You have the dispute resolution panel, or you have the CITA appeals, and then ITAT and High Court and all of that. So as a transfer pricing consultant, you would be involved. Again, like, the kind of work that you would be doing is extremely team specific. It really depends on what kind of clients your team has and what kind of services they would need at that point in time. Although compliance is something that's going to be there everywhere, but advisory and litigation is, again, really depends on what kind of clients your particular team has. In addition to this, there are also a couple of other things, like, for example, dispute prevention mechanisms, because at the end of the day, if you look at transfer pricing, so this is more like, India, as we all know, is promoting or is trying to promote itself as one of the go-to destinations for foreign direct investment. So when a foreign entity wants to enter India, it look at what are the problems it's facing, and litigation and transfer pricing related litigation is something that catches its eye. So because of this, there are dispute resolutions mechanism or dispute prevention mechanisms, such as your advanced pricing agreements and all of that. So if you have your client going in for an APA, the kind of tax authorities that you would be interacting with are going to be different, because it's not the ground level staff that you would be interacting with, but the competent authorities of each of these countries that you would be interacting with. So depending on what kind of clients you get and what kind of work that you get to handle on a day-to-day basis, so it can be very challenging. But one thing which I would really like to say is, you should really have a love to understanding business processes, because that is kind of like the core. Understanding functions, understanding risk, understanding the assets, understanding intangibles and all of that. That is, the heart and soul of transfer pricing. So that's something I had to.
Yeah, thanks, Vaishnavi.
Sure, sure, Upaman.
Uh, it was a very elaborate explanation of TP and its various subsets. And one interesting point that she said that quite often I admire about TP is the fact of how business oriented transfer pricing as a service line is. It involves quite a lot of understanding of the business also. So while many people say that tax is merely viewing it only from one angle, transfer pricing is one such subset by which you actually get to understand the business pretty well. Continuing with this transfer pricing theme, I'll just like Pranali to also supplement what Vaishnavi said and just probably even tell what are her responsibilities now that she is at an assistant manager level. So how does it differ at that level?
Sure. Thanks, Upamanyu. Thanks for passing on the baton. And yeah, that was a very good technical, brief overview of what we do daily in our transfer pricing practice by Vaishnavi. So I'll go a little beyond what we do in our day-to-day work at transfer pricing. Like what both of them emphasized, business models learning about business model evolving with the world is at the heart of transfer pricing. You'll have to keep yourself updated with things like blockchain, cryptocurrency payments, etc., which as a subject is very interesting once you are involved in it. So because what you will find is yourself, you will have to take calls with CEOs and understand the business models and everything. And because on the basis of these business models is how you draft your file. So that is a very essential part of our discussions. We as consultants, we are even part of boardroom discussions, which are pretty less tax profile consultants are. Not everybody, not all tax practitioners are a part of boardroom discussions, but you will get to be a part of boardroom discussions as well, because arm's length is an important consideration for directors worldwide. Now going a little further into the people you will deal with daily, I myself have interacted with economists, MBAs, and people from all spheres of life. You'll have a normal officer walk you through the processes to a CEO explain you what at a high level business how he looks at his business. So you'll have all sorts of people you'll deal with from all eras. And one of the important aspects in our practice is that you don't necessarily need to be a CA to be in the transfer pricing field. So you will have MBAs, working through their careers in transfer pricing and ultimately making partners. In PwC, we have partners who are non-CAs, and one of the best part of this practice is also that you have some global mobility, because the transfer pricing is, OECD is the Bible of transfer pricing. That's the guidelines which every jurisdiction mostly relies on. So when you have transfer pricing, you have global mobility. I myself will be joining a foreign country to work with their practice in a few months down the line. So that is a very important aspect of transfer pricing. And being a consultant focused profession, I mean not profession but a practice, if you going a little further, if you'd be interested in knowing what your future prospects are, then what happens is, if you're looking out for settling in India, then you will have to work in the consultancy practice. There are opportunities, but very few opportunities in what do you call, in the industry compared to the consultancy sector. So if you plan to make a career in transfer pricing, then consulting is the thing for you to do in India. But then if you plan to move abroad, then that's a very good thing to do, because you will explore new cultures and you will evolve with the world. Like what I said, you need to know constantly upgrade your knowledge to provide that transfer pricing advisory. Obviously assignments depend on your team, but it is always better to evolve with a subject, and you'll have some really interesting subjects to do, some really good brainstorming to do. And that is because you will interact with so many people, you will interact with non-CAs. Basically a culture also plays a very important role in what you do in an organization. So that's where transfer pricing is a little different from our traditional corporate and international tax. The only drawback, I wouldn't say a drawback, but the only non different the only differentiating factor between a tax and a TP profile, if you ask me about India, is that the opportunities in India, a corptex guy can easily shift to an industry role. For a TP guy, it's a little different, to shift to an industry role. And about the pressures, their pressures are same across the big four. You will find yourself leaving office at 4 in the morning, and then going back to office at 10 in the morning, and somehow juggling your way through lunches and dinners. But that's restricted to a month or two at max of the year, of course, unless there's an important project, but that won't let you run till 4 in the morning, don't worry. But it's an interesting field to join. And from a long-term perspective, whatever you want to do, Vaishnavi and I are always available to take your queries on anything related to transfer pricing. Yeah, so over to you, Upmanyu.
Yeah, so one very key important takeaway from Pranali's elaboration was the global opportunities which transfer pricing gives, which is actually quite specific to transfer pricing. It's a lot easier to be global if you are in transfer pricing. So that was one of the very important takeaways from what she said. And apart from the fact, yes, you do get to learn a lot more about business. So we've had a thorough overview of transfer pricing now. So now come two probably more verticals of direct tax, which probably have more strength in terms of the number of people who are there as such, and which are probably more common. If you see in terms of a big four, you will have a higher number of people doing corporate tax than doing transfer pricing, and you will have a lot of people in the M&A tax department. M&A tax is obviously a very fast growing segment given the amount of deals that we are seeing live going through. Even in COVID times, we are seeing a lot of deals going through. So M&A tax has assumed a lot of importance. So I lay a lot of the onus is now on Meenal actually, because two of our speakers have actually dropped out. So Meenal here will have to talk about both corporate tax and M&A tax. She's currently working in M&A tax, but she has worked in corporate tax also. So over to you, Meenal.
Okay, hello everyone. So with the people venturing their business to all the parts of the world, I think international taxation has really become an important thing in today's businesses. So when we talk about corporate and international taxation, I would like to divide that into three categories: advisory, compliances, and litigation. So with my experience in corporate and international taxation of about 2 years of articleship and 1.5 years as a qualified, what I have observed is that the most of the chunk of your time gets gets into providing the advisory services. With advisory services, it's not just the Income Tax Act and corporate and international taxation. So you really have to be well versed with the treaties, the clauses in the treaties, the income tax laws of different countries also, because when a client approaches you for a particular transaction, that client not only wants to know the implications from domestic tax, which is income tax perspective, but also from the DTAA and the country in where the another counterpart where the transaction is taking place, or where the payment has to be made of, from where the money is to be received. Okay, so when you so corporate and international taxation, I feel can be a very interesting field for those who are really interested in the research work, in in applying the in doing the brainstorming around how to structure a transaction and how to advise a transaction so that the client has to pay the minimum tax when the client is taking that undertaking the transaction. Okay, so when it comes to the interview part, when you are applying for a corporate and international taxation department of a big four, I think, okay, so as a fresher, no one expects you to know everything. And you all must be knowing something about international taxation since it is covered in the DT paper of CA final these days. So, but the key is that I think you should be keen in learning things. That is very important as a fresher. So, when the person whom you're working with realizes that you are really keen in understanding or knowing things, uh, then that person automatically ends up investing time in you. Okay, and when it comes to not just corporate and international taxation, I would like to say, but any field in consulting, I would suggest everyone to keep themselves updated. Okay, so probably when your results will come out and when you all will apply for jobs and appear for the interviews, by that time the budget will come out for this year. I would suggest all of you to be updated, to actually, okay, attend the budget session. Okay, read the papers. After budget comes up, all the big fours, all the boutique firms issue their papers. Read their analysis. It's very important, even if you're a fresher, but there are few things which people expect you to know. People expect you to be updated because CA as a field, there are a lot of changes. Coming every day. So it is very important to keep yourself updated. Second thing, in an interview, I would like to suggest is be confident. Okay, so whatever you have written in your resume or your CV, even if you have done articleship in audit, or even if you have done really only compliance in your articleship period, or only tax and you want to go in audit, or only audit and you want to go in tax, but whatever you have written in CV, be confident of that. You should know what you have written in CV. Even if it is a 3-liner CV or 4-liner CV, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is whatever you have written in the CV or in your resume, you know the whole and soul of what you have written. That is very important. Okay, so that comes to the so now we end the advisory part of corporate and international taxation. Second comes the litigation part. So what happens in corporate and international taxation department is, most of your clients are generally MNCs. I would not say that all your clients are MNCs. There are domestic clients also, but the major chunk of your clients are MNCs. So when it comes to litigation, you not only do the assessment proceedings, CIT proceedings, ITAT proceeding, but you also get a very good opportunity to file an AAR. So I think that is really good because that can be really interesting. So with incorporated international taxation, it opens up a lot of areas, lot of opportunities to work in different things. Okay, so when it comes to compliance in corporate and international
அங்க
taxation,
வச்சிருக்கேன் 2 கிளாஸ் நீயும் அம்மா குடிங்க கருத்தால்.
sorry,
Requesting participants to please
Yeah,
stay
go
on
ahead.
mute.
Go ahead.
yeah.
Neel, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, when it comes to the compliance part of corporate and international taxation, So I would say that with my experience, the compliance part consists of only 20% or 10% of the work you do. And when I say compliances, it mainly consists of filing income tax returns, and not just of the Indian entities, but mainly of the foreign entities. So if a foreign entity has earned any income from any source in India, on certain incomes they have to file returns in India, which in Big Four language, which we generally refer to as flip side returns. Okay, so that is all about corporate and international taxation. With an interview preparation, I would suggest that just just be updated, keep yourself updated, be confident with whatever you already know. Okay, so since you are fresher, since you most of you may not have a lot of experience in the corporate and international taxation department, but so no one expects you to know everything, but whatever you know, just be sure that it's not half cooked knowledge or half baked knowledge. So just that's all on corporate and international taxation. I would end with a note that with my experience, it was a very interesting field. I used to enjoy working in that field a lot. So whoever wants to venture into the field, I would like to say that there are a lot of opportunities, considering that now the businesses are growing at another level and not restricting itself on doing businesses in India, but are spreading to all the parts of the world. So it can be a really good field and expanding and really, really has a good exposure. So that's all on corporate and international taxation. Currently, I'm working in an M&A department of Dhruva Advisors. Okay, so M&A, I have been working in M&A from past, I think 6-7 months now. M&A for me has been a very, very, very interesting field. So when I say M&A, the M&A starts with the ideation. So when the client comes to you, the client comes to you with an end objective, what he wants to achieve. You go back to the client, uh, explaining him or taking to him the different options or structures through which he can achieve the objective. So the main part, even when okay, so when we do M&A, we do not restrict ourselves just to the income tax part or just the tax part. We advise clients from all the laws perspective, companies laws, FEMA, stamp duty, IBC, competition law, and everything. But income tax can play a major role in M&A. Why? Because okay, so I have seen some of the structures or some of the options getting discarded just because there was a little more tax in that option than any other option. So the okay, so when you structure a transaction, the first thing a client wants to do is save as much money as he can. And and the client has the opportunity to save money when it comes to tax planning. Okay, so when we talk about M&A, the first thing you have to do is conceptualization. M&A as a field is a very, very growing field. As Upmanyu rightly mentioned, M&A, mergers and acquisition, is a department or is a field which which never saw the impact of COVID, I must say. So we have deals. We have been working in. We sometimes you have to work day in and day out. That's how majorly M&A works. But the good part is, at the end of the day, when you do a transaction, when you do a deal, at the end of the day, you are very satisfied with the work, because the work itself is very interesting. Because I would like to say that M&A is a very creative field. Okay, so when it comes to applying your creativity or applying, think about it in the brainstorming part. M&A can be a very, very good field. So okay, so we just have to talk about M&A tax right now. So when it comes to M&A tax, so here also corporate and international taxation plays a very important field, because now an investment is made into a company. Not only a resident or a domestic company makes an investment in India, but with foreign companies or foreign investments coming like anything into India, corporate and international taxation plays a really, really important field in M&A tax also these days. with me, I had no experience in M&A tax when I applied for Dhruva, but I had a really good experience in corporate and international taxation in KPMG, wherein I had advised some of the clients on the transaction from corporate and international taxation part, and that really helped me cracking the interview or getting into M&A department of Dhruva. So when it comes to M&A tax, all you have to do is, there are a lot of sections in income tax which pertains to M&A, and I don't know, maybe sometimes in CA final we tend to not put so much attention on those sections. And with budget, from last two budgets, there have been a great developments in M&A tax. So what I would like you all to take care when you are applying for an M&A tax department of any big four or a boutique firm, or M&A department of any of the consulting firms. Just just go through all the sections in the income tax which talks about mergers, acquisitions, demergers, slum sale, capital gains. Okay, so all those sections are very important when you apply or sit for an interview of for M&A tax. With M&A tax, okay, so currently when you will appear for an interview for an M&A department, no one would expect you to know the other laws also, but people would really expect you to know the basic income tax laws which pertains to M&A. So it is very important to revisit those sections and everything, and keep yourself updated with the recent budget, keep yourself updated with the recent deals which are going on, and how those deals are structured from tax perspective. So even if you read about 2 3 deals in the newspaper, because if a lot of you must be knowing that there are a lot of investments happening every day these days. If you open a newspaper, you will see an MNC or a very big company making investment in small startups in India. So that is the culture these days. Okay, so M&A as a field has a very good potential. With what Okay, so what is happening around the world is a lot of mergers, acquisitions, investments have been happening around the world. So as a field, the potential of growth, there's a lot of potential of growth in M&A. So those of you who are really keen in understanding the deals part, the transaction parts, and how it is how it goes when it comes to taxation part in M&A and everything. So I would suggest that a big four or a boutique firm would be a really great place to start your career in this field, because with my experience, mid-sized firms do not offer M&A tax services a lot. They do not have such clientele. But a big four or boutique firm can really offer you a great opportunity to learn when it comes to M&A. So yes, I would be really happy to take all your question around corporate and international taxation or M&A tax by the end of this session. And all the best to all of you for your results. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Meenal. That was really a very comprehensive overview. You actually bucketed it very well into compliance, litigation, and advisory. That was something that I was actually going to cover later in terms of what we have overall as work, but this was very well explained, so I don't probably need to go into that. So yeah, she is right. The main buckets are compliance, advisory, and litigation. Apart from that, there is really nothing as such. These are the three main buckets in which your work will fall. She was she had another key takeaway that there are quite a lot of teams in Big Fours actually who have a high proportion of advisory. So if you are lucky enough to get into one of those teams, then definitely you will have a very enriching experience. That being said, I think at most you will have 50% compliance. It just cannot go over that. I think you will have litigation and advisory, and you learn a lot even in litigation as such. So nothing to be worried about there. In terms of the balance segments, I will cover that. So the first segment that I wish to cover is the people advisory services that is related to individual taxation. So individual taxation actually as a field, is a little restricted. So you will just be able to have advisories on very limited sections, mainly pertaining to salary taxation. The chapter that you studied in IPCC, income from salaries, mainly advisories will be related to that. You have articles in DTAA such as Article 15 related to dependent personal services. That will be the main article you use. You will use residency article, but over all in all, it's a little restrictive in terms of what it offers the field. So individual tax per se will have these limited aspects. It will have a little bit of litigation. Again, everything very specific to individuals. You will be filing maybe Form 24Qs related to salary. You'll be filing TDS returns of salaried individuals, of the corporates related to the salaried individuals, basically. So niche field, if you feel that you can enter this field and just give your all to the field and become a master of individual tax, nothing like it. You can obviously go for it. That being said, majority chartered accountants do not tend to go for this field because of the restrictive scope of the field. You have more chartered accountants opting for transfer pricing, corporate tax, and M&A tax rather than the individual tax segment. I had started my journey with individual tax in KPMG, so that is how I happen to know about what the role entails. So that is a little bit about individual tax. Coming to the last segment, that is the tax knowledge and solutions or the research cell team, which is something that I am a part of at EY. So ours is a very peculiar department. It is a small team strength. We mainly solve technical queries that the departments that we spoke about earlier, like suppose the transaction tax team or the corporate tax team or the transfer pricing or the individual tax team, if they have any technical queries related to a particular stand that they want to take. For instance, does a particular amount fall within the ambit of royalty or is it FTS? If you want an analysis on that, you want detailed research to be done, you want commentaries to be seen. So we will be the department that will go to the backend. We will do the entire research. We will see various different kinds of commentaries, have discussions with our seniors, and finally come out with a final result with a certain degree of surety that this will probably stand to this extent in a litigation. So that is the main part of my role. Apart from that, you might have probably seen tax alerts coming out from various big fours. The moment a particular development comes out, we are at the scene trying to create an alert, trying to present very complex information in a simple format so that everyone can probably digest the development more so that the clients of a big four can probably digest this development, whatever has happened in non-technical terms. Apart from alerts, we do happen to make representations to the government before budget. So right now is the time basically. And post the budget, we do an analysis of various provisions, again make representations before the budget is finally approved. There are a few changes. And then post budget is approved, we will remove guidance notes on various topics in the budget. So this is a very broad overview of what I do in my role on a day-to-day. I have been here since 1 year now. So my day-to-day has entailed these various facets depending upon what season, if it is. If it's budget season, then more of budget work. If it is not budget season, then more of helping the main tax teams with their technical queries. So I think that is a sufficient enough overview of all the fields in direct tax. Now, just a few very generic tips from a fresher perspective. First of all, before we go to tips from a fresher perspective, let me even talk about mid-size firms and small-size firms. While our discussion has been entirely Big Four oriented, we may need to talk a little bit about mid-size firms also. So everyone definitely wants to try and get into a Big Four at the beginning, but it's not practically possible that everyone actually gets into a Big Four. And that is nowhere the fault of the candidate at times. It's often down to experience, who has a tax experience in the past, who has a better tax experience in the past. So there are very well-renowned mid-sized firms also, which are very well-known in the market, which are recognized by Big Fours as recruiting grounds. Like if you come from this XYZ mid-sized firm, you are a candidate for us in the future, 2 years down the line. So if you are going to a mid-sized firm, you may probably target such kinds of firms. I don't know about the compensation, it may be less, but from a career development perspective, if you're not able to get into a big four at the very beginning, these mid-sized firms, which are well renowned, are a very, very good source of learning, as well as you can probably enhance your knowledge on the side, keep updated, and definitely your shot at a big four will come with time. If you wish to know such firms, you can definitely connect with one of us for offline, and we will help you as to how to go about which are the names of these firms basically in terms of where you can forward your CVs. So that is from a mid-sized firm perspective, because um, often it is seen that even entering a mid-sized firm at the start of your career can probably help you develop some sort of a base learning, which you probably might not have got in your articleship. So maybe another viable option is you start with a renowned mid-sized firm and then you enter the big four or the boutique firm space. So this is it with respect to all the entire day-to-day and what we do in the tax field, various subdivisions. From a fresher perspective, Meenal rightly mentioned that you should have more of a focus on keeping yourself updated. Like if you know you have an interview with M&A tax, you have to look out definitely at sections of slum sale or demerger, as she rightly mentioned. These are very basic stuff that you definitely have to go through. There are no two ways about it. You have to definitely look into the recent developments that happened in the budget. This is definitely going to be asked in your interview. And as a point of caution, tax interviews tend to be hyper technical at times. They can go very detailed at times. They can present case studies to you in the interview also to solve. You may not be right in the answer of the case study. It's merely to check how you are applying your mind, how you can correlate various sections. But yeah, it's just a note of caution that these interviews can actually turn out to be very, very technical. So that's it from a fresher perspective. Just to end, I would like to say that we at Vision CA are also conducting a boot camp where you freshers can actually prepare for different profiles and different kinds of interviews. So so if I take the example of today, so we will be conducting mock interviews for direct tax, and probably you all can acquaint yourself with how a direct tax interview will be. So your first interview need not actually be a final interview. You can have a mock interview kind of a thing with us. So that might definitely help you. So you can definitely connect with one of us offline to talk about the boot camp. We'll be glad to guide you through the entire process. Apart from that, yeah, we also have certain other stuff in the boot camp, like we'll be reviewing your CV and we will be just overall giving you comprehensive guidance as to how you can go through. It's not just for DTs, it's for all kinds of profiles. I think that's it from Vision CA today.
Just one more announcement. Wanted to confirm. Part of our next session is on forensics, right? If I'm not wrong. Just wanted to confirm. So we can announce it right now. Let me confirm. Parts is there. Yeah. So guys, next one is on a very interesting profile, forensic audit, and we'll be having mentors who are working in the forensic audit field with the Big Fours. They'll be sharing the experience. The date and all will be sharing soon. Just FYI. Thanks, guys. Amazing session. Vaishnavi, Pranali, Meenal, and Upamanyu, as always. Really in-depth knowledge regarding all the fields and everything. Also, different perspectives in terms of mobility, what kind of perspective you can develop. I got to know for the first time that, as Pranali pointed out, that you are having talks with people from all the level, and there's a business angle to all the transactions, and you need to work your way around it in a taxably acceptable manner, if there's any term as such in taxation. Overall, amazing session. Thanks for being such a lovely audience, guys. Really happy with the turn-in. Okay, I think we have a couple of questions from participants. We can take them one by one.
Yeah, surely we can go with the Q&A.
Won't take more than a couple of minutes. So yes, Ranglani, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah, so I'm looking. So I have done my articleship in both statutory audit and taxation. So now I'm looking after qualification into a tax litigation. I have done my LLB. I am just in my last sem of the LLB. So
Okay.
what are the best options for the litigation per se?
So I'll take this up. So to be honest, litigation, there are few. So it's actually a little differing in Big Four. So there are certain Big Fours which actually have teams which do only litigation, and there are certain Big Fours which have litigation within various teams. So every team has little bit of litigation in it, but in certain Big Fours there are even dedicated litigation teams. So you can basically talk to people who are in tax departments of various Big Fours, and probably connect with one of us offline maybe to find out which department, which Big Four actually looks at litigation as a separate department and which has a mixture. But yeah, a very good option for you definitely is right now is to go to a Big Four or a boutique firm like Dhruva, as Meenal is right now at. So that should be your first step right now, at least. And considering you have done an LLB, that's obviously an added advantage.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can.
Also, I would like to add that there are a few good mid-sized firms which has really good litigation practice. Like KCGen has really good search and seizure practice, and so you can also find those firms which mid-sized firm which really specializes into litigation. So that can also be really helpful if you really want to build your career in litigation.
Yeah, maybe can I connect with someone, some of you offline, so get the knowledge about those forms, or maybe.
Yeah, surely. Yeah, you can connect with any of us offline, any of us four offline. We'll be glad to guide you around these forms. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All
Aditya
right.
Sharma.
Yeah. Yes,
Aditya,
Pawan,
go on.
you lead. Tell me.
Yes, Aditya, you
All,
can.
good evening all to all the speakers. My question is to Meenal ma'am. I'm a CA inter student and I've given my latest attempt in December. So I'm looking for articleship in taxation field, specifically in direct tax. So as Meenal ma'am said about that direct tax and Upmanyu sir, you said about different portfolios within the direct tax segment. So my question is that I've heard and listened and read about many articles that government is looking forward in taxation field to remove the mediators within the filing segment. I have a concern and a doubt in that question that is it true, or and if it is true, then what is the future of direct tax in India? And as Meenal ma'am said that it is mainly focused on advisory part. What advisory will this segment will go through? Any changes in future?
Okay, so please don't call me ma'am. It makes me feel really old. And okay, so when it comes to compliance, I don't know. Yeah, everything is really getting digitized these days. So maybe, but when you talk about direct tax, it's not just compliance. It's not just return filing, as I previously mentioned. But there are a lot of other things, a lot of other interesting things also. I'm not saying that compliance is not interesting, but a lot of other good things also which you can look at when it comes to direct tax. So and but with, as you rightly mentioned, that there are a lot of changes in direct tax area. With those changes comes the opportunity, a lot of good opportunities in advisory. Okay, so if you really want to venture your career in direct tax, I would suggest that don't just think from compliance perspective. Keep a holistic view of direct tax. It's not just compliance, but it is litigation also, and it is advisory also. And trust me, there are a lot of learnings in advisory and litigation department. So yeah, I think I hope that your question is answered by that.
Yes, I have another question too. That
Just a
I'm
second, Aditya. I'll just supplement a little bit to what Meenal said
yeah.
regarding your concern, how you can actually address it and keep your mind a little bit open towards DT. So I agree with you. I agree with Meenal that compliance is getting automated. But the fact still remains that Indian laws, when I compare it with UK laws or I compare it with Singapore laws, are very complex. So the moment any law is complex, the need for an advisor will always be there. So
I
till
completely agree with the Upamanyu that compliance will
till
never go away from Indian law.
so advisory will always be there until the point in time where our law is more granular and very, very streamlined, which is not likely to happen mostly in any time in the future. You will have a need to consult someone. I'll give you a very classic example. So last year, 2020 Finance Act, there was something called alternate taxation scheme for individuals, which was introduced. It was supposed to be something that would simplify tax structure very easily. Now you will find advisors being more in demand because of that, because everyone wants to know whether the old scheme is more beneficial or is the new scheme more beneficial. So instead of simplifying the structure, it has been counterintuitive and we have got more opportunities because of that. So there will be such occasions, and till the time our law is simple, you will have advisory will survive the test of time. Quite frankly, as you said, I don't know about compliance, whether it will survive the test of time, but advisory and even litigation will survive the test of time because disputes will continue to be there and we will be asked to structure and advise. So I
So
think these
yeah,
two aspects will continue. Yeah.
Upamani, just to add a saying over here, in life only two things are certain: death and taxes. So as
Yes.
long as taxes are there, we are in demand. You guys, I mean. And also, Aditya, I would really like to appreciate the clarity of thought and the long-term vision that you are having in your mind, given the fact that you are an inter pass out. I really appreciate the clarity of thought you have and the way you articulated the question. Thanks. I think you have another question, so you can ask that.
You can go with your second question. Yeah.
Yes, as I said about that, I am in India. So, of course, I am a little bit confused about the profile I should choose. And as you said about the direct tax and about the profiles within it, I am now more confused that which I should pick and if I should pick a mid-sized firm or a big four. Because down the line in the future, I want to do my own practice, not like a 3 4 year after becoming CA. I want to be a specialized person as a CA because I think that a CA people who are non-CAs look CAs as they know completely everything and from 0 to 100 everything. So, but I want to change that perspective and become a specialized person. And as Meenal ma'am said about the boutique firm concept, it is very much interesting. And I would like to have a clarity that where should I opt for.
So
Upamanyu, I think you should take him offline.
yeah,
He'll
I was just
definitely
going to say,
clarify.
Yeah,
Aditya.
definitely.
Yeah, Aditya, this is a whole different level of discussion where we can actually talk to you for a pretty long time. So you can either connect with any of us for offline. We will be glad to guide you over this matter and we can probably discuss your options for articleship at that point. Yeah. So just connect with one of us offline. You can even get our WhatsApp numbers or LinkedIn anyway, and you can connect with us. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go with Naveen next.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Thank you so much, Professor,
We
for
are really not
arranging
sure and
this session. And all the speakers all have shared this your best experience with us related to direct tax and all. I have jotted down some of the points that Vaishnavi ma'am and Pranali ma'am shared their transfer pricing. That I am very curious to know that PCPR report, master file, and all.
Right.
Now my mind has been diverted from statutory audit to transfer pricing. That what is this? So my mind is totally confused in which field I should opt for. And secondly, this merger and acquisition tax and corporate and international tax explained by Meenal ma'am, that makes also curious to me that everyone should be keen knowledge and update their self. So my question to Meenal ma'am is that how we should update ourselves. Like you said, we should be updating regularly by changing what the changes are becoming.
Okay, as I previously mentioned that a lot of big fours and other firms do publish their papers regularly. So if you follow big four on LinkedIn or a mid-sized firm or a boutique firm on LinkedIn, they keep people updated by publishing their papers and articles on LinkedIn. So that can be a one way of keeping yourself updated. Obviously, read newspaper, all the tax laws or recent changes in the tax laws or in the consulting field are obviously there. And there are certain portals like Tax Guru, Tax Sutra. You can also keep yourself updated from those portals if you want.
And okay, ma'am. And which newspaper is to best to read for as a
As it can be Mint, it can be Economic Times. So
okay,
that is completely up to you.
okay, ma'am. And like I'm intermediate student, I'm looking for the articleship in this big four firms. Like you said, you should be have a knowledge of sections related to international tax law. Is it mandatory to get the knowledge about that, or it's sufficient to be good for that whatever we have read in intermediate?
Okay, so since you would be applying for articleship, okay, so people would not expect you to know everything, but at least whatever you have read in your intermediate, just be well versed with that, and if nothing else. So and nothing is compulsory. But it's good to keep yourself updated, right?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No issue.
Yeah, Naveen, you can also keep a tab out for our other open houses. You will come across many different kinds of profiles there. So
Yes, sir. I have like the session going on different
yeah,
days. The opportunities are opening. बहुत ज़्यादा खुल रही है.
right.
मतलब earlier session when I was attending to the statutory audit, it was eye-opening that there are many profiles. And now when I attending this session, there are many profiles in DT itself, like transfer pricing and people advisory, like you were sharing your experiences, and all the corporates and international tax. So it's been a little confused which profile should be opt for. The same like Aditya was saying that it's been a little bit confusion that which profile should be opt for the better future.
Right. That's all right. You can keep a tab on our open houses and then decide accordingly based on your preference.
Okay, sir.
नवीन आपको नेक्स्ट प्रोफाइल में फिर फॉरेंसिक का भी ऑप्शन मिल जाएगा आपको, आप टेंशन मत. नहीं, it's all right. We are all learning and exploring, and it's about figuring it out. So it's a mix of factors. Maybe we can connect separately and think over it. But there's no hardcore answer. 1 + 1 2 है. तो आपका career भी कैसे करना? There's no such hardcore answer. No one can give it. It's all about you discovering it yourself. We can only give the maximum level of information possible, but it all boils down to you and your choice.
Okay, sir. Okay. Got it. Thank you so much.
Prithvi, do we have time? Is Prithvi there? Okay, I think
Yeah,
Prithvi.
we can take a couple of questions.
Yeah, we can take a couple of them. Maybe try to close in the next 5 minutes. We
Yeah,
can
right.
keep it rapid. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'll just keep it very brief now. So I'll next go with Ishan. So Ishan, you can ask your question. Unmute yourself and please ask your question.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So I already work in a like mid-sized firm, and I work in GST. So I pretty much do everything right from refund to litigation and consultancy. The thing is that I have only been exposed to GST so far. I've completed 1 year of my articleship, and these all these seminars that you're taking, they are really making me get more interested into various other fields as well. So there is no possibility that I can switch my fields right during the articleship. Just industrial training the option. So I mean, just anything to enlighten me upon that. That what if other fields interest me too?
Just for a little bit of context, you are right now in which year of articleship?
I'll be completing my first year in a month.
Okay, fine. So I'll just suppose by chance you do end up doing GST for 3 years. Okay. So so there is nothing that will forbid you from changing your field as such after you qualify. It's not that the field that you choose in your articleship is your final field and you're stuck there for life. There is nothing like that. You can definitely change your field. Even post qualification, 1 year people work in one field, then they change their field. So there is nothing like you'll be stuck. It's just that you will not have done anything practically in DT, which is a little bit of a disadvantage compared to other candidates who are applying for a similar profile. So what you can do is you can try to keep yourself technically updated in other fields throughout these years. Whenever you're going to be doing an articleship in GST, while you will definitely be technically proficient in GST, you can keep yourself theoretically updated in all the other fields, and depending on where your interest lies, then you can apply. Like if I have to give you an example of DT, suppose you do want to go into DT after qualification. So in a big four interview, if you are able to theoretically crack the interview and probably answer 85 to 90% questions correctly, there is a very high chance of you getting selected. Even if that is not the case, you can start at a mid-sized firm in direct tax, which is renowned, and then you can work your way up to a big four. So there is nothing like that. Like either way, it depends on how much you are ready to put in the efforts to change your field.
All right, because I actually am very happy with my field. I just wanted to know that what to do to switch, because there should always be an option, right?
Right.
One has
Agree.
to be king of one and jack of all. I mean,
Yeah, you can definitely keep yourself updated through. You can obviously, you will be studying a lot now since you are just in your first year of articleship. You will be doing the entire course of all the various subjects still. So that is one thing. You will be learning entire direct tax in any case. So basis that and basis updations, you can definitely try later if you feel like shifting from GST after 3 years.
all right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'll be taking my last
brief. Jaldi 2 minutes में close कर पूरा.
Yes, so I am just taking up the last question now. Everyone else can connect with any of us for offline. We will definitely help you. I'll take up Sagar as the last question. Sagar, unmute yourself here.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I will thank later, coming to the point. So I have a few questions. Hello, I'm audible?
Yes, you're audible, Sagar.
Yeah. So like first question, I want to ask that like for me who has completed articleship and who are not having any experience in DT in articleship, and if I want to start a job in DT, so as you know, we have various subfields also, like corporate tax and all. So in start, if I have no idea regarding which subfield to join, so what would be the best subfield to join if I have to interchange later on?
Upmanya, can I take this up?
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Yeah.
So, Sagar, I come from a core statutory audit background, and I work in an MNC where I also oversee the corporate tax function, which includes monthly computation of tax, passing the deferred tax entry, reconciling the deferred tax asset liabilities, and also doing transfer pricing and assessment documentation. So when you work in a corporate from a tax function, you are not supposed to know the law completely. You have to understand how operationally you are able to extract data for tax with some technical background. So if you are willing to learn, I think it won't be difficult for you to shift from to a tax background without any previous working knowledge of that.
Okay, and like if I have to join in, suppose like a particular field for particular subsector like corporate tax or M&A or transfer pricing, so which one would be best to start with? Like if I have no idea, if I have a choice.
No idea, if you have a choice, you talk to them what work they are offering you, because जो आप बोल रहे हो ना, वो हर एक खुद में एक समंदर है पूरा. अभी कौन सा समंदर आपको तैरना है वो आप खुद डिसाइड करो.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Upamanyu, I think last दो ही questions है, एक प्राची है और एक प्रजेश है, तो इनके ले लेना फटाफट please.
Yes, my question.
Okay,
Sir, I have
sure.
a very simple question. I have given my CA inter and I am seeking articleship right now. And I have not chosen any profile or not finalized as to whether it is big for a mid-size. My question is, you people are into taxation, but so if say you have done your articleship in taxation, how did you get that confidence? Because why I'm asking this question is because people, as far as I have heard, people invariably get into stat audit if it's going to be a big four. So because they don't know nothing much about the other fields, and also it is not that much, like they don't know much about it. So stat audit is like the very first option to all of them. So why is that happening? So did you or some of your friends started articleship from the first year in taxation department? So how was the experience? How is it? So how is it about?
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'll have to wind this up quickly, but just Fun fact, I started my articleship in the audit department of a Big Four.
Okay.
So then in articleship only, I shifted to a mid-sized firm in direct tax because I kind of realized after 1 year that maybe audit isn't for me. And later it has been all tax for me because once I started direct tax, I realized how much I liked it and how I can probably do it in the long term. So even if you do opt for the statutory audit department of a Big Four, eventually with time you will come to know what do you like and what do you not like. You will come to know on the job. So and often in a particular field also there are aspects which you will like and aspects which you will not like. So always keep that in mind while holistically evaluating a field. You articleship may you probably don't put that much thought into what you're selecting. That's natural given the amount of information you have right now. But that in no way is a barrier for you to shift your field later. Just remember that always. With the right amount of knowledge and hard work, you can definitely shift your field.
Thanks, Upamanyu. Yeah, final question by Ram Maheshwari, please.
Hello everyone. Continuing to the previous question, I am going to complete my first year of articleship in statutory audit department at GT Mumbai, and I have also realized that I don't want to do audit in my life. So I'm thinking to take transfer in taxation department. So how should I approach? Like majority of vacancies in Big Four or Big Six firms are for audit only. So how should I approach for direct taxation department?
Ram, we go mostly offline on this question because it's
it's better.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a process that I have to probably explain it to you, like in terms of what evaluations you will have to do and realistically which options do you have best. So
okay,
you will have to connect with me or the other three speakers offline, one of them, and we will probably guide you on this offline. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think okay, we have Srinivasan. I think that's the last question we'll take.
Hi guys, I'm so sorry to raise my hand at the last moment.
No worries.
No worries.
A quick question about international mobility after being in the transfer pricing department of a Big Four. How often does it happen, and what are the chances if you continue to be there for probably 1 or 2 years?
So it doesn't depend. It ideally doesn't depend on the number of years of experience you have. You can join after 2 years of experience, or you can continue for 10 years and then take a switch. So there are various factors involved, what geography you choose and many other factors involved. So let's not get into a detailed discussion right now. You can connect with me offline. I'll let you know everything about this global mobility.
Sure thing. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing session, guys. Thanks a lot, everyone, all the mentors. Thanks to the lovely audience for being such a good audience. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Parth, for joining all the from Dubai. Okay, guys, take care. See you in the next bootcamp. Take care.
And guys, if you personally want to get interviewed for mock preparation from our mentors and everyone, stay tuned for the bootcamp ahead. And hope to see your wonderful attendance at other open houses as well. Thanks for joining in.
Next one is forensics, guys. Do tune in and bring your friends as well. Bring your friends. Okay. Chalo.
It's
bye.
going to be a blast. Chalo. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.